Namam Vishnupadaya Krishnapastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Tirtha Swaminiti Namine Namaste Krishnapadaya Prabhupada Shritatmane Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namine Namam Vishnupadaya Krishnapastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswat Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavad Pashyate Desutarine Om Ajnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Vishakhanvitam Nisha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Hishikeshendriyatmane Namaha Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nibhatatmane Swarga Pavargadvaraya Nityam Suchi Sade Namah Namah Hiranya Viryaya Chaturhotraya Tantave. Okay, so today I was asked to speak about Kartik vrata. Nitai Kirtan Prabhu, when he spoke to me, he just gave me a wide range. He said you could choose amongst any topic which could inspire people for vrata, specifically for Kartik vrata and so on. So we'll talk a little bit about the topic of vrata and specifically about Kartik. But before we go into the specifics of Kartik, which is an extraordinarily elevated topic, because there are so many wonderful aspects of Kartik which our acharyas have talked about. Practically every major pastime, in fact the most significant pastimes have occurred during the Kartik Mass. So there really is so much more than keeping vrata. There needs to be a lot of understanding. But before we go there, we need to take an approach. The approach has to be through the Bhagavad Gita. So we would go to the Paribhasha Sutra of the Bhagavad Gita, which is practically, Paribhasha means the essence. Every scripture has its essence. The Bhagavad Gita has its essence in one verse. According to the opinion of our acharyas, it's 15:15. 15th chapter, 15th verse is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. It explains the essence. Once we read into it, we'll go into it a bit before we get into the topic of Kartik vrata. So the verse is Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaisha sarveraham eva vedyo vedanta krid vedavid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. Krishna is being very specific. He's saying, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. So, the biggest aspect of this verse, the critical aspect of this verse, being the essence, is that practically everything that transpires is to help us remember Him. Everything that transpires is to help us remember Him. If you're reading Vedic scripture, the essence of Vedic scripture is to remember Him. We're going to refer to this verse further down, because this verse is the verse which was used as a basis for the Govardhan Leela, the Leela which the Lord manifested, where Nanda Maharaj himself was taught what to do and what not to do, and he was given directions in terms of the specific aspect of choosing the worship of Giri Govardhan as opposed to engaging in activities which are deemed to be fruitive activities, the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. So we'll be getting into it. Krishna is making a very specific mention here of smaranam, remembrance. So in our system, we engage in Smaranam, remembrance. But then how do we remember? Remembrance is a sequence. It is not something which occurs automatically. Remembrance is a sequence of events. What happens with remembrance? You first have to have kirtanam. There has to be glorification. There has to be chanting of the holy names. There has to be nama smaran. There has to be nama kirtan. Nama smaran is the remembrance of the holy name. Nama kirtan is what we engage in at this time. And when there's very serious nama smaran, when there's very serious nama kirtan, at that point in time, what happens is that we get an opportunity at a higher level of evolution in our spiritual consciousness into practically absorb ourselves in the Leela of the Lord. Leela, which is actually the pastime. The pastime of the Lord becomes manifest in our heart and provides us with a glimpse of spiritual reality when there is serious kirtan. Kirtan has to precede smaranam. Smaranam is far beyond the scope of early practitioners or Vedic bhaktas. It is beyond the scope. Smaranam is the reality that we see when we see the deities in our different temples. The deity, the posture of the deity as Tribhanga, the posture of the deity with Srimati Radharani, right? Krishna with Radharani in different names, different pastimes, the Ashtasakis with Srimati Radharani and Krishna. Then you have Krishna as Giridhar, then Krishna in different aspects of the avatar, basically his different pastimes. All of this is smaranam, but smaranam of our acharyas. The smaranam and the remembrance and the practical visualization of a pastime by our acharyas has transported itself into practically giving us a form to the deity that we worship in the temple. We wouldn't know the features of Krishna. We wouldn't know the wonderful pictures that we find in Srimad Bhagavatam. We really wouldn't know the various pastimes. These pastimes have manifested themselves because there was serious chanting by our acharyas. The very serious chanting, namasmaran, by our acharyas, our Guru Varga, practically allowed them to visualize the extraordinary pastimes that occurred in Braja. They recorded these pastimes. Those recordings became manifest as deities and different leelas that we see here. Krishna Balram standing together, and then you have, the cowherds, then you have different kind of pictures and visualizations that come up in scriptures. These are remembrances of our acharyas. How is it so? It is because very serious chanting produces the effect of being able to enter into the pastimes. So we have different stages as we evolve in our practice. Our practice at the initial stage is all about restraining our senses, but that is just restraining our senses so that we can focus. Pratyahara, which is being followed, is simply to be able to withdraw our senses so that we can focus. But is the objective of Krishna consciousness the regulative principles and avoiding onion and garlic and so on and so forth? No. This is very preliminary, which is going to allow us to be able to chant in peace. We need to be able to chant and have very focused remembrance and hearing of the chanting. Shravanam has to be the kirtanam, then the Shravanam is going to produce the smaranam. Now, the very clear Shravanam which is going to happen after a certain amount of regulation, and that is the purpose of regulating ourselves and being in the mode of goodness. But what is the objective of us being able to chant? The holy names is the sadhana, it's also the sadhya. The holy names has the capacity to reveal all the pastimes and to practically allow us to engage in those pastimes. So what happens when a bhakta starts chanting and then develops and receives mercy and reaches the point of understanding their role and their position in the spiritual sky? Okay, it's a stage. It's very important to know milestones. Without knowing milestones, then we would be engaging in vrata like karmis. Without knowing why we are doing what we are doing, we would just be engaging in vrata like karmis. So it's important to know that we start off by coming in touch with the Guru Parampara. We come in touch with sadhus. The sadhu inspires us to take up chanting. So there is bhajana kriya. And then when the sadhu engages us in service, we have the ability to shed the karmic reactions that we carry on our back for millions of lifetimes. These karmic reactions practically obfuscate our ability to see who we are in the spiritual sky. So as we chant seriously and we start shedding the various cloaks that we wear and the various pretenses that we have in this particular lifetime of being someone and having objectives which are completely misaligned or not directly connected to the parampara, as we begin shedding it, one truth would come when our faith becomes very steady. And that truth would be that everything lies in holding on to the bead bag and the beads within, not just the bead bag. Yeah? Everything is lying here. This is steady faith. Steady faith is when you reach a conclusion saying you need nothing. You just need nothing. You just want to hold on to the bead bag. And you know that the beads and the chanting is going to deliver and give you everything which our acharyas have promised. That is steady faith. Until then, we would have issues and we would complain about where we are. We would even switch yatras. We would switch temples. We would switch congregations. We would switch jobs, partners. We would switch so many different things trying to just chant. And that is unsteadiness. Steadiness would come in when we would just grab the beads and we would start saying that I've understood there's nothing else to this other than this. And we would hold on to it for all life. And when someone reaches a steady portion of their ability to hold on to their beads, understanding that the truth which our Acharya spoke is right there, it's intrinsic. I just have to hold on to it, follow it. When you start doing it, then you receive help. The help that you receive comes from the spiritual sky. Just as much as we have a spiritual master on the material plane who is a transcendental personality, he has descended and has been commissioned by Krishna to assist us. In a similar fashion, there's help available in the spiritual sky, and when we become sincere, they notice us and they begin rendering help to us. When that help comes in, then the chanting bears fruit. Okay? The chanting bears fruit. One is able to chant and one is able to visualize the extraordinary pastimes that take place in Vraja. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has written the wonderful Kundashtakam, which is practically the glorification of Sri Radhakund. And in that he mentions very clearly in the last paragraph that if a soul who comes here has no other desire other than wanting to surrender, he has no other desire, practically no other desire, other than wanting to stay in Vraj and wanting to practice the chanting of the holy names, to him, this wonderful pastime of Krishna demanding Radharani to give him fees for crossing over. He becomes the tax collector, Dana. He practically says to Radharani that, if you have to cross with your other gopis, you have to pay me fees, and the fees can be, yogurt, it can be butter, it can be milk, and they're all carrying their pots. You've seen this wonderful picture, Dana Nivartana, right? That particular pastime is practically a pastime that is revealed in Sri Radhakund. It is that area. So for one who is a very sincere chanter, who has no other aspiration other than wanting to chant the holy name, if he were to sit and chant on the banks of Radhakund with such aspirations, this extraordinary pastime would be revealed. This is the promise of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Now, how did Sri Raghunath Das Goswami practically write about that pastime? That pastime has been recorded by him because he visualized it. He sat there on the banks of Sri Radhakund. He was calling upon the holy names with great sincerity, and he saw the divine couple and their closest associates engage in this pastime. And that pastime is eternal. It's available for visualization by those who have the same quality as enunciated by the Acharyas. Because Krishna says he's going to help us remember. He's going to help us forget. Now he has helped us forget. He has helped us forget. We are finding it difficult even to chant when you hold on to the beads. So he has helped us forget. It's dangerous, isn't it? When you hear Krishna saying, if Krishna desires to do something, who can stop him? And he's saying, I'm going to be in your heart. If you choose to forget me, I'm going to help you. How awesome is this? I'm going to be in your heart, and if you choose to forget me, I'm going to help you. And if Krishna desires to help us forget him, who can stop that particular event from occurring? So we have forgotten him. And this whole process is about being able to awaken the process of remembering him. When our acharyas recorded these pastimes, they visualized it. Even today in Sri Radhakund, that is normally done, where the Kundashtakam is read, the person who, if there's complete surrender, then the pastimes are revealed to such a person. The pastimes are revealed. This extraordinary pastime is revealed, just as promised by Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. Now, when we read about this, then that's recorded in the form of paintings. So this is originally Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, who sat down on the banks of Sri Radhakund when it was a small pond on the banks of, in the middle of a rice field in Vrindavan, in a forest. He sat on the banks of Sri Radhakund when it was a small pond, undeveloped, and he was engaging in serious namasmaran. He was engaging in serious kirtan and hearing, shravanam, and that produced smaranam. When he did that extraordinary chanting, the pure chanting, that pure chanting manifested the pastime because he was entering into the spiritual sky. Even though he was physically present in this plane, he was entering into the spiritual sky through the means of the holy names. So he visualized that pastime on the banks of Sri Radhakund. And he recorded it in the form of a prayer. And then he offered a benediction because of his extraordinary mercy, because he was the keeper of the Radhakund. He was designated by Sri Mahaprabhu to take care of it. He offered that mercy, saying, whoever comes here, who has a heart where they have no other desire other than wanting to reside on the banks of Sri Radhakund and chant, for such a person, this pastime would be revealed. You see? Now, what do we understand by this? This is something which occurred in Sri Radhakund, and Sri Radhakund appeared during the month of Kartik. The entire pastime of Govardhan Leela happened during Kartik. Now, the point which I'm trying to make here is that the Govardhan Leela is also very, very significant. It is significant because it exemplifies the main tenet of Krishna consciousness. What is it which allows us to recognize a sadhu? How do we recognize a sadhu? How do you recognize a sadhu? We sometimes use this word quite casually. We say sadhu. Yeah? What is it which allows us to recognize a sadhu? What is the scriptural import which allows us to recognize who is a sadhu, who isn't a sadhu? Let's talk up. It's okay if you're off the mark.
Simple dress. The dress.
Externally, yeah. Externally, there's simplicity. Sorry?
Eyes as well.
Nice.
Eyes. Like his eyes.
Eyes. You can recognize. I haven't heard about that one. How do you do that?
Well, a few times I've noticed that the eyes are a bit sparkly, a bit different energy from them.
Okay, that way.
Yeah.
From a subtle level, they are very bright. Those are external aspects, yes, because you could also have sadhus who could necessarily not portray themselves as being simple. They could wear somewhat elaborate clothing. They could come and get down out of a Mercedes. The rare event can occur. So we don't want to kind of bottle them or put the external criteria in, because that's not a very sure shot, because sometimes we could be right and sometimes we could be completely off the mark. In recorded history, there have been great emperors who have had extraordinary sadhu qualities, and I'm sure they were very opulent in their demeanor, in their surroundings. So Janak Maharaj, he was a Rajarishi, the father of Mother Sita. Similarly, Ambarish. There are so many personalities who are emperors, who are sadhus, who portrayed the external qualities of a Kshatriya, but internally their hearts were completely aligned with Krishna consciousness. So it's a difficult thing to judge externally. What else can we talk about when we say sadhu?
His actions and what he speaks is from the scriptures, from the Shastra.
It's aligned with the scriptures at a basic level, yes. The acharyas, our Guru Varga, have given a definition. We should follow that definition to understand what it is. And it's an internal definition. It is not external. It is an internal quality. And the reason why they're talking about internal quality is because that would allow us to gauge and monitor our own consciousness to see, are we really there? Are we at the sadhu level? Because someone could portray themselves as a sadhu externally, but a reality check which they could have within themselves is being given in scripture. The number one and the only quality which scripture has given, the primary quality, the Swarup Lakshana, the real quality of a sadhu, is their complete dependence on the holy name. It is their complete dependence on the holy name. So when we might see sadhus amongst our peers in Birmingham, where they might have an extraordinary dedication to the holy name, where they're completely dependent on the holy name for everything. What do you mean by that? It practically means that no matter what happens, no matter what the crisis may be, they're constantly seeking to be able to chant and surrender to the holy names. So there is a certain dependence. Namanaminoho abhinnatvam. Padma Purana says there's no difference between the name and Krishna. So one who is completely dependent on the holy name intrinsically is the definition of sadhu given in our scriptures. That is the primary lakshana. Because of this dependence, there are other wonderful qualities that manifest. But these are subsequent qualities. These are secondary. They call it tatastha. This is, it is the causative principle is because of the dependence. The other things just manifest. Humility, simplicity, all of this manifests because internally there's such extraordinary dependence on the holy names. Now, this extraordinary dependence on the holy names was again demonstrated during Govardhan Leela. When there was a deluge in Vraja, and the deluge in Vraja was such that it was like pralaya, which is almost like the end of the world, and it's very difficult to conceptualize the extraordinary urgency which the residents of Vraja would have felt when the torrents of rain and floods took place, where the houses were washed away. It's difficult for us to visualize it. Normally, we associate the Govardhan Leela with the favorable aspect of offering him extraordinary level of sweets, and then there's a mountain of sweets, and then Krishna becomes Govardhan, he eats up everything. This is all good. This is before that. But after he eats up everything, everybody there who gave him a plate of sweets get into trouble. Yeah? During that point, everybody gets into trouble where there's a deluge which is there, and everything gets washed away. Everything gets washed away. It's very difficult to visualize what the urgency would have been and what would have been their internal state. But what is it which they did? They all took shelter of this 7-year-old boy who was holding this extraordinarily large mountain in his little pinky. And he was also looking at his friends. He was not paying attention. He wasn't really paying attention. He was looking at his friends and he was just holding it up. This is complete surrender. The surrender, if you actually notice, is that if the intelligence were to be developed, then they would not have probably gone in there. If intelligence were to be developed, it would not have gone in there. This is overcoming dependence on material intelligence and depending on the holy names. Depending on Krishna, depending on the holy names is one and the same. So they go in there and then take shelter, and Krishna is able to protect. This is the lakshana of a sadhu. The Vrajvasi's behavior during Govardhan Leela is the lakshana of a sadhu. It is the lakshana of a sadhu. When Abhimanyu gets killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the 5 children of the Pandavas get slaughtered by Ashwatthama. Okay? Now, after all of this has happened, the Pandavas are yet about to face another crisis. And that crisis is when the Brahmastra is being thrown at Parikshit when he is in the womb of Mother Uttara. Now, imagine this situation. If we have been through multiple crises, and this is nothing bigger than losing your children is the biggest crisis a mother could ever go through. So Uttara was witness to the death of her husband, and she knew that if Krishna wanted, he could have saved Abhimanyu. She knew that because he's the Supreme Lord. Uttara witnessed the death of the 5 children of Draupadi. Now, what would this do to your faith if you were constantly being told that this is your Supreme Lord and he has absolute power and he wields all the power in the world and he can do anything he wants, and yet you find that those who are closest and most proximate to him have suffered immensely and have suffered such a great loss? What did she do when the Brahmastra was flung at her womb? She goes running not to Arjun, Bhima or Yudhishthira. They were all there. They were all warriors. She didn't go running to any of them. She went running to Krishna, Uttara. She went running to Krishna saying, Deva Deva, you are the cause of everything. You are the Lord. I surrender unto you. You have to save my child. The point which I'm trying to make here is what is the quality of her faith? That she has not had great experiences on which she could rest and develop deeper level of faith and depend on Krishna. She has not had those experiences. She only has Shastric conclusions to depend on. She has not had experiences. She has practically seen the death of near relatives. And every one of them could have been saved. She knows that. But her faith was go running to Krishna. No, this is the internal dependence. This is the quality of a sadhu. When the situation in our lives becomes such that we have no one else to turn to and we know only Krishna is there, and we hold on to the holy names with such dependence, then we would know that we are also slowly getting to the point of having dependence on Krishna. You know, we call him a kinchana, right? He makes his devotees depend on him. So he's particularly very, very fond of having devotees depend on him. This is the internal quality of a sadhu. This is the internal quality of a sadhu. Now, the point which we are trying to make here is that this internal quality of a sadhu is what is being exemplified by our acharyas when they write about, the Govardhan Leela being so profound and so, it's such an amazing Leela. Why is it so? Because his internal quality was manifest. They did not go running back to Indra to propitiate him to stop the rains. They decided to go and stick to the plan of going under the same Govardhan hill so that Krishna could be there. They had no conception that Krishna was God. They had no conception in Braja, which is so special. They had no conception. They all decided that if the mountain were to collapse, I would rather go along with him. So they all went under the mountain and stood under. This is Rajvasi. This is the mood of a Rajvasi. Now this particular pastime, which practically spoke of Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Raja, this offered an opportunity for the Vrajvasis to practically live the teachings of the Shastra, the essence of the Shastra. This particular pastime occurred during the month of Kartik. This is again Smaranam. This is Smaranam. When we have the pastime of the appearance of Krishna, when we have the pastime of the appearance of Lord Ram, appearance of Lord Nrsingadev, on those days we fast, we perform vrata. We fast, and then there is very serious puja, there is very serious connection to the deity. And those who are very fortunate and who have the ability to have visions, they have the ability to practically see the manifestation of such pastimes. You see? Why is it being recorded that this particular pastime of Lord Nrsingadev's appearance occurred on a Chaturdasi? It gets recorded. How did it get recorded in scripture? How did our acharyas record this pastime of Lord Nrsingadev in scripture? How do you think they recorded it? Come on, take a shot.
They had a vision.
Exactly. They practically saw the pastime occur and they recorded it. Srila Vyasadeva saw the various universes coming out of the pores of skin of Karanodakashaya Vishnu. He could see the universes going back in. He could see Garbhodakashaya Vishnu with the stalk and the lotus on which Lord Brahma is sitting. He could see Lord Ananta. He could practically see the entire manifestation of every avatar Srila Vyasadeva ever wrote about. This is the conclusion of Srila Jiva Goswami as well. This is the conclusion of our Acharya Varga, that this is direct vision. This is direct vision. This is direct vision. When we say Tattva Darshinaha in Bhagavad Gita 4.34, we say the Guru is a Tattva Darshi. It is not that they have some kind of a conceptual understanding that a pastime occurred. Their understanding is out of direct vision. And when it is out of direct vision and you start recording it, we develop faith when we come in touch with material which has been directly recorded. That is why Srimad Bhagavatam is so special. Why is it so? Because these are direct manifestations of accounts of the pastimes of the Lord. When we come in touch with the Srimad Bhagavatam, we develop immediate faith. You hold on to it. It transforms you, literally. It is so powerful, Srimad Bhagavatam, that you just hold on to a copy, it transforms you. You bring it into the house, it transforms everything in the house. Srimad Bhagavatam. Why is it so? It is so because these are recorded occurrences of the experiences of our acharyas. So this particular month, the month of Kartik, which is coming, has so many amazing pastimes that have occurred. You have Govardhan Leela, you have the appearance of Sri Radha Kund, you have so many different pastimes that have occurred which are intense, which are so important in our, in our ability to be able to move forward, is that when we maintain a vrata in the month of Kartik, a vrata is simply an austerity which is being taken up by us, an austerity which can be taken up. And we are simply saying that I am willing to pay an extra price. I'm willing to pay an extra price because there's something very special. You're going to be giving out an extraordinary gift. Since you're going to be giving out an extraordinary gift in the month of Kartik, I'm willing to pay an extra price. For those of you who are fortunate, those of us who are fortunate to be able to chant and to be in Sri Radhakund during Kartik or be in Govardhan during Kartik, and if we have the ability, if we have been given the gift of vision, Premanjana Churita, Bhakti Vilochanena. Because there's Bhakti, if Prema is in the eyes and you're able to see, all these pastimes become fully manifest in a far more profound way during this particular month. It's like a window of opportunity which will practically give us a deeper sense of faith. It's a window. That can be an inauspicious window, and it occurs as well. When there's an inauspicious window, the sky opens up, and then there are entities who are extraordinarily dangerous who enter into this planet during that window. They are inauspicious. So you see extraordinary damage, you see this big, calamities occur around the world. Those calamities occur during times when these inauspicious entities enter, when there's a window which opens up. They can't enter all the time. See, we worship Ganeshji. In Hinduism, Hindu theology, they worship Ganeshji to remove obstacles. What is the obstacle that he is removing? He is practically removing the influence of unwanted entities. He has the capacity to remove them. So people worship Ganeshji. Right? So the point I'm trying to make here is that there can be inauspicious windows that open up, which we can't recognize, but then we do see that it manifests itself. For example, recently there was a spate of stabbings, killings, and a lot of violence around continuously for several months. There can be auspicious events as well. The auspicious window which opens up steadily is during Kartik. And this auspicious window which opens up during Kartik is such that one has the ability to practically be able to, if they're fortunate, come in touch with extraordinary experiences of our acharyas. It's being recorded experiences. Right? So the smaranam part which Krishna talks about, he says, I help you remember. So we have to do the kirtan, we have to do the hearing, the shravanam. Kirtanam, shravanam, then you can hear and you can have the smaranam. The smaranam is something which Krishna would reveal. When is it an opportune time for smaranam? Kartik is an opportune time for smaranam. That is when the pastime occurred. When the pastime occurs, and that particular time, you have the ability to come closer to the pastime than you ever can. The manifestation of Sri Radhakund occurred during Kartik. When you chant and when you are near Sri Radhakund, that is when Radhakund manifested. So the pastime is manifesting at that point in time. So you have greater access to come in touch with such high level of experiences during that particular window. Right? It is almost as if a window opens up and that event is going to occur again. And during that time, just like an appearance day, you have the ability and access to such extraordinary pastimes. So Kartik Vrata becomes extraordinarily important for serious sadhakas. So what do? They practically are saying that we are ready to pay a price. We'll keep a vrata. We are ready to pay a price. We would fast. We would just have one meal a day. Perhaps we would even abstain from proper meals throughout the month of Kartik. We would just have fruits. People take on different kinds of vratas. So they're ready to go through some level of austerity, saying that I'm ready to pay a price. I'm ready to subdue my senses so that I can focus all my energies into japa. You see? Because this japa is what is going to give you the experiences. Without experiences, you cannot have faith. And one of the difficulties of practitioners of Krishna consciousness in the modern times is because they don't take up Krishna consciousness, they don't take up chanting seriously enough, they don't have many experiences. As a consequence, their faith is quite fragile. Just one crisis is enough. They start questioning the fact that I've been chanting 16 rounds, I've been waking up and I've been doing so much seva. Why do I have this crisis in my life? Why is Krishna sleeping? He's not doing his job. Right? This question comes up. Why is it so? Because the real spiritual experiences are not being made available yet. Why is it so? Because they're not ready to pay the price for such experiences. The intensity is not there in the practice. When the intensity is there in the practice, then one has experiences. With those experiences, they bolster and create a much more foundation, a larger foundation of faith. With that faith, you have the ability to take off. So when that faith and the foundation are not available, then any small crisis can completely throw the person out of track. They would start blaming the process. They would even blame Krishna consciousness. They would even say that Krishna consciousness doesn't work. Nothing else works other than Krishna consciousness in this present age. It's a fact. Every institution which promotes the chanting of the holy names would flourish. Every other institution would slowly meet its end. Because this is a Yuga Dharma. They are not aligned with the mission of Lord Chaitanya. They would slowly deteriorate. I was recently on a tour of South India as well. I went to Braj, and from Braj I went to South India. Even in Vrindavan, in places and temples and kshetras where there was very serious chanting and very serious practice, they were flourishing. You could see spiritual potency, you could practically sit there and you could gain a lot. In our own temples, and not ISKCON temples, our own temples in terms of Gaudiya temples, where there have been extraordinary occurrences in the past of great sages and saints who have stayed there, whose samadhis are there, if their own practices were off, you find that you don't really have much going on there. What to say of temples and what to say of other practices? Other practices, I could see deterioration. People come there with fruitive desires, and how do you maintain an institution which is completely dependent on fruitive desires? Time will eat it up. Just as much as we see changes in the world here, you're going to see changes even in spiritual institutions which are not aligned with Mahaprabhu's mission. So this mission of chanting the holy names is so profound. If you are a part of it, we are most fortunate, most fortunate. We have to just grab onto it and not let go under all circumstances. And we will slowly flourish if we do what is required to be done. What is required to be done is to be able to call upon the holy names. There's really nothing else to our movement. There really isn't anything else. There's nothing fancy. It's very simple. Just call upon the holy names and we will be able to move on. The point we wanted to make here is that smaranam, which is required, smaranam, which is remembrance, which is practically being able to visualize a pastime of the Lord, will not occur unless there's serious chanting. When there's serious chanting and there's serious hearing, then you have the ability for smaranam, which would come eventually. And when that happens, there will be real experience. When real experiences happen, there's no question of the person being distracted. They would never ever move away no matter what it is. And then they become completely dependent on the holy names. So until then, what we need to do is we need to strive harder to be able to chant so that we can have experiences. Chant, serve, and by serving, we develop experiences. The experiences themselves, we have to understand what those experiences are. And that can be understood by the recordings of our acharyas. So we don't speculate. We read scripture and say, I've had an experience. Is it even something which is worth writing home about? You see scripture. If our acharyas have had it, then it is worthwhile. The scripture and the recordings of the experiences of our acharyas in Vraja during the month of Kartik, most of the experiences are during the month of Kartik. They are all recorded. Those recordings and those experiences are the primary experiences a practitioner would be given as a gift when they mature in their chanting. When Srila Raghunath Das Goswami writes that in the Radha Kund, when someone sits and then seriously chants and they're able to see this extraordinary pastime, that gift would come first for a serious chanter. There would be other experiences which that person may have in interaction with the divine couple. That is their own experience. But this would also be given. Then they would know that at least they're on the level where they can visualize and see these experiences. They're reaching that level of being able to practically see what is occurring in the spiritual sky. These are eternal. This pastime of Srimati Radharani and Krishna around Govardhan in Vraja, they are eternal pastimes. Serious chanters get the ability to visualize these pastimes. When they visualize, they develop deep faith. Why so? Because they have an experience. Right? So that's the whole purpose of sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is all about being able to seriously function and focus ourselves, perform vratas, being ready to pay any price. We practically communicate this. I'm ready to pay any price. I practically am ready to fast. I'm ready to do this, ready to do all of that. please give me an experience of being able to chant the pure name. So this desire of wanting to chant the pure name and follow on the footsteps of our acharyas, that really yields fruit during Kartik, because it's a window. And you don't have to be in India, in Vraja. I just want to make sure you can perform your vratas here in Birmingham, and that would be rewarded as well because of the mercy of our acharyas. So this is very important for us to do. Now, what is the kind of vrata you would do? Personally, here's what I do. I focus on my being able to maximize my time in chanting. Whatever is going to allow me to do that, I take it up. If it is going to be more food, that's welcome. If it's less food, that's welcome. Okay, I'm not going to be telling you what to do and what not to do, because if you can't chant because you're eating less, then you might as well eat a full meal. I'm being very straight about it. If you can't serve, you might as well eat a full meal, because the month of Kartik is such that there is vrata, and then there is what we ought to do in terms of the essence. So focus on the essence. The essence is to be able to associate with devotees. Essence is to be able to chant, engage in kirtan. Essence is to be able to come in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam and be able to, if you have the opportunity, if you're lucky enough being in Vrindavan during this time, that's amazing. The point which I'm trying to make here is we should not get too caught up with the vrata. We want to understand the purpose. Set standards of chanting. If you're chanting a certain number of rounds and you want to increase it, increase it. And do whatever is required for that to make it happen. Do whatever is required for that to happen. Yeah, we don't want to get distracted. We don't want to say that I'm not going to eat for 5 days. I'm going to observe the Bhishma Panchaka. What is it, the last 5 days? Yeah, I'm going to observe the 5 days. I'm not going to eat anything. I'll just have a little bowl of khichdi or probably nothing at all. And then we can't chant. We can't do anything. We can't meet with the devotees. We feel sick. It's meaningless, right? So focus on one thing. I prefer, this is my preference. Some people have Kartik vratas of reading. Some people have Kartik vratas of extraordinary. They want to do more seva. They want to distribute books. They want to meet more devotees and bring them into the movement. There can be very many things which can be done. All of that is wonderful, but I'm merely saying that you have to be practical about how to execute the vrata. It has to be the essence of the vrata rather than trying to incorporate features of it where you want to practically punish yourself but you can't function. There's really no point. Now I'm being very straight because that is a part of what happens as well as we go get into Krishna consciousness. We can get distracted by the practice more than the essence. So focus on the essence and use your energy to chant. Chanting is the best activity you can perform. If you want to increase your rounds, you want to offer more rounds during Kartik, there's nothing better than that. Nothing more effective than that, vrata. It's the best thing which you could do, right? I'll stop here and perhaps I'll take a few questions on this aspect. And any question to assist. So let me summarize as you think about questions. We started out by understanding that the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is 15:15. In 15:15 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that he's going to help us remember. He's also going to help us forget. He also says that I am the essence of all Vedas and everything is to you, practically approach me. So Kartik Mas Vrat is to ultimately come to the point of helping us remember and helping us attain Krishna consciousness to be able to go closer to our ultimate goal of Krishna Prema, right? So that is the objective of Kartik Mas. And why is Kartik special? All the extraordinary pastimes that have occurred during the month of Kartik, which means they are more accessible to the serious chanter than during other times. They are more accessible. When our acharyas recorded these pastimes, they recorded these pastimes because they visualized these pastimes. And so there were gifts given by our acharyas, saying you do this and you will receive this gift. So these are opportunities for us to have an entry into the spiritual sky if you're sincere enough and be able to have a direct experience of these pastimes. And it is very important for us to recognize that in this particular month, there's maximum opportunity which is being provided. The Lord is called Damodara in this month. It is Damodar Mas. And he is called Damodara, very specifically the pastime of Damodara, because Sri Radha Damodar is the deity who was worshipped by Srila Jiva Goswami. And the deity by nature, Radha Damodar, Sri Radha Damodar, they're very simple by nature. They're very simple. Simple in the sense that the pastimes that are associated with the Lord are extraordinarily sweet, but very simple as in being a part of Vraj. It's very, they're not used to, the very essence of Vraj is captured in the Radha Damodar Leela. It is practically, Sri Radha Damodar means it's the very essence of Vraj, the very simple nature of Vraj, where, the mother ties him up as a child, and then he just moves around as a child would, and then just by moving around as a child, so wonderfully he liberates the two sons of Kubera. It's almost as if everything which is in that particular pastime of Damodar, and even otherwise, even as the older version of Damodar, we have Sri Radha Damodar in Gitanagari, we have Sri Radha Damodar in Jiva Goswami's Samadhi Mandir. They were his worshipable deities. These deities have a very simplistic mood and extraordinary mood. Almost you can say that he's mischievous. Yeah, even the older version of Krishna as Damodar is quite mischievous. He's very mischievous. So, he's very mischievous, quite simple, very oriented towards Braj. It's a very special name, Damodar. And this Damodar Mas is very special because of that. The particular prayer that we sing, Damodar Ashtakam, the 8 verses that we sing by Satyavrata Muni, it's very special because it contains all the mellows. He has practically captured nuances of all the mellows. The mellow of Krishna, Vatsalya, then there's Vatsalya, there is Madhurya, there's Sakya, there's everything which has been captured in just the 8 verses. So we also offer a ghee lamp. This is from Hari Bhakti Vilas. These are the instructions of Sanatana Goswami. We offer, and this is from Padma Puran, where during the month of Damodar we offer a ghee lamp, and then we read the Damodar Ashtakam. But there's a lot more. You practically get into Smaranam, to the remembrance of the Leelas, because they become very accessible. Okay, I'll stop here. I'll just see if there are any questions, comments. Yes, Prabhu.
Generally, during the month of Kartik, as you said, there's a lot of mercy that is available. So we often see that as you said, if a devotee is sincere, you may tap into the experience. But how do you ensure that even after the month of Kartik? Often devotees chant a lot, or you feel that level of advancement, but rather than sort of going from there to there and then sort of continuing, you sort of slump back down and then continue that way. So how do you continue that momentum, so to speak, or that advancement, rather than the month giving you the mercy and then once it's over, sort of simmer down back to normal habits?
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, when he talks about it, he addresses this in Madhurya Kadambini.
Okay.
He specifically talks about the fact that there's a certain unsteadiness, utsaha, where enthusiasm would reach its peak and then it would drop. Okay, 25 rounds, then struggle for 2 rounds. Go from 25 to 2, do all kinds of service and then do nothing.
Yeah.
See, this is a stage of development, an evolution in the consciousness of the devotee, of a sadhaka.
Okay.
So they are still not rid themselves of the anarthas. So the steadiness is not there.
Yeah.
So that is the reason why we see this. So how do they do it? It is a matter of time, as they steadily focus on practicing this, that they would also come. This is like a stage.
Yeah.
It's a stage.
Okay.
It is also a stage given by our acharyas. They've observed this, they've recorded it. This is a stage. Okay? This is an unsteady stage. So, see, when the quantum of happiness and the focus of life becomes chanting, then such a devotee will have a steady experience and steady movement. Until such time, until we have many other aspirations out of life, we could have professional aspirations. We could have aspirations in general of living in a certain way. We could have aspirations of many other things in life. When there are other aspirations, then this unsteadiness would be a part of life as well, because the unsteadiness would be produced. That's why it's the fact that Krishna says sarva dharman parityajya. So when all other dharmas become subservient, then steadiness would come, and that steadiness also is a gift of chanting. So as we go along becoming unsteady, and the graph goes like this, it would slowly, steadily, become stable. But it's a stage which has to be recognized. The devotee has to recognize that yes, I'm chanting 25 rounds, but I know I can't maintain it. So I really have to beg for help for me to be able to maintain it. So I'll have to be able to do that. So the recognition has to be there that they're not there.
Yeah.
They're here, or perhaps here, and they just have to be steady as they climb up. So yeah, that's an issue. That's an issue, but it's recorded as a part of what a devotee, a sadhaka, goes through, because that initial thing goes away. And the reason it goes away is because, for example, Prabhu, no matter which day of the year, you would never forget that Adidev is your son,
Yes.
right? You would never forget.
No.
And neither would he allow you to forget. Yeah, he wouldn't allow you to forget, and you would never forget that Adidev is your son.
His wife would allow.
Yeah, yeah, she's there. She's going to play a role as well. But the point is, 365 days of a year, you wouldn't have a problem in terms of understanding what is required for Adidev and what needs to be done. So there is no unsteadiness simply because the relationship has profoundly been recognized, and you know your duties, and you're performing your dharma in relationship to that particular soul because you understand it. Now, the issue which we face as sadhakas is we don't understand our relationship with Krishna. As a consequence, there's great unsteadiness. So we are bound more by duty consciousness rather than the enthusiasm that comes from within because there's a relationship. So the mother wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning knowing, oh, my son is hungry, I have to feed him. Now, this is out of attachment. You see? So the real Bhava Bhakta, they jump out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning because they are attached to chanting the holy names and connecting to the pastimes. Why so? Because the relationship is established. So the Sambandha, Gyan, is somewhat deficient, and that is the reason why there's a lot of unsteadiness. Because suddenly they realize that the Sambandha in this world is even more profound. I can really recognize the Sambandha of this world. The connection in this world is even more profound than the connection in the spiritual sky. So put that to the side, pay attention to this, and then we'll come back later. So it brings about this unsteadiness. It is a matter of Sambandha Gyan as well. And how does Sambandha Gyan come? Guru Kripa, and Guru Kripa is right here. Yeah. You can go all around, and I'll again point to the bead back. I figured that out. Yeah, not because I like to do it, it's just that I'm convinced. Yeah, I'm convinced there's really nothing else to our process than holding on to the bead bag. Nothing else. Yeah, there's a scriptural conclusion as well. Yeah, I'm not too far away from that. Yeah. Anything else?
Do you know when you just talked about your relationship, establishing our relationship with Krishna? Could you elaborate a bit more on that? And do you mean our individual, original relationship that we have?
Yes. Every one of us intrinsically has a certain relationship with Krishna. The whole process of sadhana bhakti is to awaken such a relationship. So the whole process of sadhana bhakti is to be able to give up the unwanted aspirations that we have in this world based on relationships, because we have formed so many different types of duties, and these duties are all because of the different relationships that we have established. All these relationships themselves are subservient to the relationship that we have with Krishna. This conclusion will be reached by the devotee when they take up sadhana bhakti seriously. And we do it as well. We experience it even in the first year of Krishna consciousness. Our priorities change. See, when we come into Krishna consciousness for the first year, if we look at what the previous year has been and what it was 12 months before, we would notice that there were so many different things that we were engaging in which we simply stopped doing. We have changed. You see? So we are progressing But then this progression itself will have to take care of very subtle attachments that are not perceived. There are very subtle attachments which can't be perceived easily. The holy names would take those out, uproot those attachments, throw them away, and then the relationship would be uncovered. It's like a lotus which has to bloom. When it blooms, then everything is revealed as to what is our relationship with Krishna. It's a matter of time. And the holy names are the means to make the lotus in the heart bloom and give us that information. So it's just a matter of time. But the best way for us to understand if we are where we are and we are even making progress is to see how our attachments to devotional service change year over year. We should benchmark ourselves. You can't really make an assumption, you should benchmark. What is the attitude towards reading? How enthusiastic are we towards sadhu sangha? Do we have too many problems with sadhus? At least those whom we know as sadhus. Do we have too many problems? We should benchmark ourselves. And then what is the attitude towards reading Srimad Bhagavatam? Do we like to read or do we feel bored? It's a clear-cut signal. If you feel bored, you see, which means you're in touch. Are we enthusiastic about mundane entertainment? How enthusiastic are we about mundane entertainment? The extent to which we are enthusiastic about mundane entertainment is a clear reflection of how far we have progressed in terms of moving away from, what's being presented to us by this world. You see, it's a gradual process, and the process itself is termed in Bhagavad Gita param drashtva nivartate. You give up the lower and assume the higher. You give up the lower and assume the higher. So it's not artificial. And then when you reach the stage when we're qualified enough, then we begin receiving the inspiration of understanding that this is my relationship with Krishna. Then it becomes more and more and more defined to the point of becoming crystal clear. And our scriptures say crystal clear means you will know which village in Vrindavan you belong to. You will know the name of your parents. You will know the name of your siblings in Vraja. You will then know what kind of service you do. You will know your name in Vraja. It's awesome. It's just, it's kind of, And when you know all of that, then you have a new set of dharma which will present itself. You have this relationship which has completely bloomed, and it has all the ingredients that go into a relationship. The sambandha becomes revealed. And that point in time, calling upon the holy names is not a chore. It's not so much of, I have to do it because my guru ordered me to do it. It is something which you do with love, and you call upon it because now you have a connection with your heart. But that's the gift which Mahaprabhu has given us. He has practically given us this gift which is so inaccessible. He has just given us this gift. Srila Prabhupada has made it even more easier. Amazingly easier. That's the beauty.
What's the date it ends?
Pardon me?
The month. What's the date that Kartik ends?
And Kartik ends, anybody?
14th of November.
14th of November, and it begins on the 16th?
16th.
16th.
Sunday. Oh, this weekend.
Yeah, so it's special that way.
I go to India on the 31st of October.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Well, first I was going to Vrindavan and then I'm going to Rishikesh.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Any other question, comment? Okay. Silence is golden, they would say. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.